It all started in 2014. I was competing at the North American Indigenous Games in track and field, and I was surrounded by 4,000 plus other Indigenous athletes, and it was just I've never been in that environment, being supported and inspired by people just like me who aren't ever supported. And what made a difference there was the opening ceremonies. There's just people speaking, but the message they were leaving us was like, you're the generation that picks up the broken pieces. You're the generation that makes a change. Like, the change you make is going to impact these very people around you. And something about that just like flicked a switch, like this fire was burning inside of me. And for the next year in school, like, I was on a mission to make a difference, to help my people some way, somehow. And that ended up being missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. Every other day in the news, there was a story about either an Indigenous woman or an Indigenous man. They were missing or they were murdered, and nothing was really being done. Like, people normalized this fact that there was thousands of Indigenous women missing, and they would just eat their dinner and just listen to it. And I remember at the time the number was 1,181 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And then a few months later, that number jumped to 1,200. And then the year after that, it was like, actually, we found the real numbers, and there's over 4,000 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. And then I came across an article of Stephen Harper denying an inquiry into the epidemic because he literally said it isn't high on our radar. And that was like, I had been doing this whole year of research for our Prime Minister to say Indigenous women aren't important. So that just like left this big mark on me, like huge slap in the face. That spark that was like burning inside was now a forest fire in my life. Like, I needed to do something. It just made sense for me to use my running shoes to make a difference somehow. Then it also made sense to use some sort of journey or path that reflected who I was as a person. So I ran 115 kilometers in 4 days. And in 4 days, I raised $6,101 for a local organization that helps the families and victims affected in any way that they can. And I finished at the monument for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. It's at the Forks. That was the one thing I needed to get me involved in everything else. And then it ended up being traveling the country and taking part in different activities and learning and causes. And that's where I'm at now. I think the Manitoba Hero Award's a really big title because I don't consider myself a hero. I consider the people winning this award alongside me heroes, but I wouldn't consider myself a hero because I just consider myself this little ordinary kid from Winnipeg that just decided to make a difference because it was the right thing to do. I'm really grateful that this happened at the time it did because I just needed that reassurance to know that what I'm doing is right and it's the right thing to do and I'm not on the wrong path. And I'm just really grateful, really.